This being the third Sunday of Advent, we have a theme of joy, and we have this juxtaposition of the joy, the seven joys of Christmas alongside tragedy in our family. And I planned to talk this morning about all of the joys of the season. I wanted to explore how the season of waiting, like Advent, can highlight the joy of Christmas. The joy of celebrating God incarnate, Christ in the world. I wanted to look back beyond the New Testament story, beyond the familiar words of Luke that give us this manger scene, to the prophet Isaiah and the joy of coming out of exile. I wanted to look at the way the light of Christ can shine even in the darkest night. And within Isaiah, I was going to talk about how Isaiah 35 really only makes sense coming after Isaiah 34. Isaiah 34 is a judgment. God proclaiming this desolation. But then Isaiah 35 has a return to Zion. The earth itself sings to God's glory. It's this incarnational theology, the kind of thing you can really sink your teeth into. The land itself bears witness. The desert blooms with this Hebrew word that's kind of uncertain in its meaning. It's not really attested anywhere else, but they've translated in the New Revised Standard Version, your Pew Bible, as crocus, and it seems to be some sort of meadow crocus or wild rose. And it's this purple flower in the desolation of the desert, which symbolizes the hope that comes after the darkness of exile. And I was going to talk about how seeing those flowers would be amazing, and in seeing those purple flowers could point to this season of hope and love and joy. But today it's hard to lean into Isaiah's message. For many of us, it's a challenge sometimes to focus on the light of Christ. It's hard to see God incarnate, Jesus in the world, when we struggle with the darkness of tragedy. Now, the world seems to be so full of bad news. It's easy to get jaded and sort of become immune to all of the things that can bombard us. But today, I'm not thinking about the 70 million refugees around the world. I'm sorry. I'm not thinking about the climate crisis and the existential threat that faces humanity. Today, I'm not thinking about the crippling national deficit and the world that we're leaving for the generations to come. I'm not even thinking about the 500,000 homeless people in America. And as it gets closer and closer to home, I'm not thinking about the 1 in 6 people in Charlottesville who live with food insecurity. These are certainly significant problems, and if we focus our attention on any of them, it's easy for them to zap the joy right out of the season. It can make us say, God, if you're with us, then why is there such pain? Why are there so many struggles? No, I'm not thinking about one of these big problems today. And if I'm being honest, I'm having a little trouble picturing that wild crocus bursting forth into bloom in the desert as a symbol of hope and joy. Today I'm thinking about Trip Kaufman, this 12-year-old young man who died earlier this week, and I've been thinking about him since he died on Wednesday. I'm thinking about him here in this church in the way that he was a part of this family. I'm thinking about his participation, picturing him as he went on the youth retreat last summer, laughing and goofing around the way a young person should be laughing and goofing around. I'm thinking about when I first met him, when I came here, and here was this snazzy dressed young man who looked me right in the eye, shook my hand, and he said, I love that. What is it? Is that a scarf? I said, it's a stole. And he said, how do you spell it? S-T-O-L-E. And so then he remembered the next week, that's a great looking stole you've got on this morning. Could I get one of those? Sure. God's calling you into ministry and you respond to that call and you become a minister, this is the uniform of the day. But then he would comment as the seasons changed, and this morning we're wearing blue for the season of Advent. And I know that if he were here today, he would appreciate, because we don't get to wear blue that much, once a year in fact. I'm thinking about this tragedy and what it means for our family of faith. And I'm thinking about how difficult it is to lose somebody, to lose anybody. But especially when we have to say goodbye to a young person. It's difficult when we don't understand why. But I'm also thinking, and have been thinking, about this God of love. And how God's love can cut through these dark moments in our lives. How even when things can seem hopeless, we still have hope as long as we have breath in our lungs. And I'm thinking about the incredible gift of each new day. We all have that gift today. We have that right this moment. So far in Advent, we've looked at hope, we've looked at love, and today we've added joy. And Christmas is this celebration of God incarnate, God with us, and no matter what we encounter, God goes through this journey with us. It's important to recognize that part, the with us part. Because God doesn't go out ahead of us at some distance, just, beyond where we can see, where we're supposed to sort of follow along in blind faith, assuming that we'll catch little glimpses every now and then. God is here. God is present, moving among us. There were tragedies in ancient Israel, and they suffered. And that's really what Isaiah 34 was all about. We read about the river turning into tar, the land becoming sulfur, and the people living in darkness. And then comes Isaiah 35. It's a response to the bleak picture of Isaiah 34, and the audience is even clearly identified. This isn't like some other prophecies where it's tied more specifically to a time and place. This is one of those that was written down and probably shared quite a bit as the prophecies of Isaiah began to take shape. So Isaiah 35 is directly addressed. Look in verse 4 in your pew Bible if you want, to those who are of a fearful heart. Now that's not a bad translation, but a more concrete translation would be those whose heart are racing. So what is this response to the people who have racing hearts? Our reading says, be strong. Take courage. The Lord is with you. No matter why your heart races, we shall see the glory of the Lord. And that's the promise that we find in Isaiah 35. There's also a tricky word in this passage, a word that a lot of times we like to skip over, maybe just move past. In Hebrew, it's nakam. It's in verse 4 also, but it's translated as vengeance. It's tempting to race past it, but it's maybe better if we pause and think about what's going on in this chapter. Because it'd be hard to understand the promises. It'd be hard to understand this wider picture of Isaiah 35 if we don't pay attention to words like nakam or vengeance. It's a troubling idea, especially when there's so much bad news. We don't want more vengeance or getting back. Yet, when the prophet says God will come with vengeance, it's a promise that God is here. It's a promise of God's presence, God moving with us no matter what we encounter. God is in this place, close enough to touch. Again, not just outside of our reach, but right here with us. No matter how much sorrow we endure, or if you are having a wonderful day, God is here to celebrate that with you. Isaiah is an honest, clear prophet. a prophet that speaks to this world, a prophet that even speaks to this moment. In Isaiah 35, we can see that hope is alive. The desert itself is blooming forth with that hope. Hope is alive even at times of apparent hopelessness. And maybe that promise can give us a glimpse of the joy that is out there ahead of us. Maybe that promise of God's continuing presence can give us strength for troubling days in our journey. Advent enriches the meaning of Christmas because we wait and we prepare and we get ready and we look ahead. Normally we'd let the season take shape and see how it fills us with wonder. And this year's a little different for this church, this time, and this place. And we have to reconcile God's unending love, acceptance, and mercy with our pain, no matter where that pain comes from. You might logically then ask, how long will the pain last? How long will we weep? How long will we have to ask, why did this happen? I don't know. No one can know. But here's what I do know. God is love. And God is capable of shining in the darkness. Isaiah 35, right in the middle, verses 5 to 7, has a number of these reversals that provide a testimony of what God can do. Healing, restoration, helping, bringing life where there is death. A God who can help people see who could not see before is bigger than my pain. A God who can help people hear who could not hear before is stronger than anything that we encounter. A God who can make people walk who could not previously walk is able to overcome anything that threatens us. I know Christmas is coming, and I know that we can still celebrate the God incarnate because Jesus was born. And Jesus loves each one of us more than we can ask for or imagine. And I know that time and time again, God transcends the darkness. Time and time again, God overcomes pain, regardless of what caused it. God walks with us through each day. And I pray that during this Advent season, as we look ahead with hope and recognize God's transcendent love, we can see glimpses of joy, maybe even feel that joy. That joy of Jesus' presence in the world in spite of the darkness. Jesus loves each and every one of you very, very much. For that reason, we can sing rejoice even when we don't feel it. Amen.